especially mentioning the hand of God, the unseen hand of God, then the whole Bhagavad Gita takes a whole new understanding. He was saying that actually, when you read the Bhagavad Gita, and as you go through Krishna consciousness, and you find, and you have more realizations about particular even words, then you can see the Bhagavad Gita in a completely different way. Same with the Srimad Bhagavatam, same with the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It completely changes your whole perception of Krishna consciousness. There's such a different level of understanding what Krishna consciousness is completely, just by a few words. Now, of course, that is, as mentioned here, that ultimately the super soul, I'm situated within the hearts of the living entity, Shvara Sarva Bhutanam, Hridaya Arjuna Tishtati, that the super soul gives us knowledge because sometimes you read through Bhagavad Gita and you've read it so many times, or you read the Bhagavatam and you read it so many times, but sometimes when you read, you forget half of the stuff you read. But a lot of the time, something that Srila Prabhupada is saying hits you in a very particular way, in which we're able to understand everything. I mean, pretty much every line of Srila Prabhupada's, it can capture the essence of Krishna consciousness. So even to realize one line or one word that Srila Prabhupada said, that would be full-on Krishna consciousness. One can become fully Krishna conscious. So my spiritual master, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, particularly mentioning this word Deva, how the hand of God in our lives, the unseen hand of God, or fate, that is often said. And it's very hard to understand, actually, this fate and the ways of action. That's why Krishna talks about action so much in the Bhagavad Gita. What is action? What is inaction? How action and inaction and action. What is all of these things? It's very confusing. And to the ordinary man, the ways of the material nature, the way this material nature works is actually quite bewildering, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. It's actually very difficult to understand the hand of God, just fate. Atheists can't understand it. Everything is by chance. So it's all happening in that particular way. But we can see, for those who are even, not just within Krishna consciousness, even the Christians or the Muslims, or anybody that has some understanding of Deva, or divine, some divine intervention is there in everybody's lives. Something that people can't particularly understand. As we see, sometimes fate, just sometimes we may be even born in rich families but destined to be poor. Or sometimes born in a poor family destined to be rich. Or born in a poor family given all the education that we can be given, but no matter how much education you give this person, is always going to be dumb. How does this work? According to science, how does this work? You can't be not stupid. Like, it doesn't matter sometimes with certain people, how many times you explain something, they'll just do it wrong. Like, how is this possible? Knowledge is meant to liberate. But there is a level of karma that is involved in our life, that is present or manifest or about to manifest, fructifying, and also being created, that we are tied by. We're all bound up by karma. So, by that binding of karma, that work that is taking place, we are forced to act in certain ways. It's almost as though we don't have free will. Almost. Like we move in our lives, and things just kind of like we don't have control. We're just shaped by our circumstances, and we're pushed into certain circumstances, even though we don't want to be pushed in those circumstances. It's just like that in our life. If you analyze your life, you're like, well, if you really think about where you are right now, like, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? I didn't plan for this. Did anybody plan to be in this room, or even within devotional society? Not at all. And somebody told me, I was thinking about that, somebody told me to become a monk or something, I would definitely say absolutely not. How can I even imagine? There was not even a thought throughout my teenage years that I would do something like this. maybe like people have that conception, they watch this Avatar, what is this? Avatar the Airbender. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. And people think that's what being a monk is. But it's not like that at all. So maybe that conception over there, but nothing of what we're doing now, especially pushing forward something that is completely against everything, against what materialistic society or modern society preaches. So how we are forced into certain circumstances. And even within devotional service, we're forced into different circumstances sometimes. We're just like we've been kind of pushed around a little bit at least within my life. I've been just pushed around in different places, just like Australia, and then into America, New York, and then Atlanta, and then I don't know where next. It's just like you're kind of just pushed around. And even within karmic life, you see certain people's situations. Now, this is, of course, we're kind of just giving an example in our own lives, but within people who are general lives, you can see it's people just lives. We can't shape them. Although we are preached that Ishvaro ham bhogi, Siddho ham balavam sukhi, that I am the controller, and that I will change everything in my own way, that I will study very hard, I'll work very hard. There's like these motivational videos that I used to watch when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, that you go out and you work hard, and what is that? There's this one particular, when you want it as bad as you want to breathe, then you get it. You know this one? Yeah, nobody knows. No, nobody was on that wave. The idea that by a strong endeavor that you can change your destiny, that actually your destiny is something that is made in your mind, but by strong work, by putting in the work, day in, day out, put in the work. Kobe Bryant, right? 4 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, put in the work, and that's how I became the best. But you can see factually that even though people may put in more work, they can't get there. There's so many people that are probably better than Kobe Bryant, or better than LeBron James, or better than all of these people in playing, throwing a ball around, but they can't make it. So many instances in which in our own lives, there's people, I'm sure, people who are devotees like Navani Hoda Prabhu, those who have been in the academic field, so much smarter than us. Just like the guy next to you is so much smarter than you, but where they're right now, they're like it's like a whole different world, some of them. But factually on paper, in school, they were getting way better grades than you. But the quality of life you live to compare to some of them is like way different. It's way higher than some of them, some of them live now. So Daiva, that we're controlled by our fate. We're pushed in a particular direction. And it's almost as though that everything is fixed. Nothing moves. No, not a blade of grass is moved without the will of God, without the will of Krishna, without the will of the Deva. So then so many people say, well, what's the point in acting then? What's the point in acting? And it's okay, if there is fate, then also there's that philosophy. If there is fate, anyways I'm going to get it. Just like I've often related, the homeless guy who's sitting on the bridge, he doesn't do nothing. But because of his karma, somebody delivers him some food, he's got a phone charger somehow, and he's charging his phone, he's got 2 phones, and he's got a bed. He's like, okay, well, so what's the point of acting? So then let me just not act. Actually, everything is controlled. And people may say, because of my karma, I was forced into this particular situation, and I acted in an illogical way, a foolish way. And so it's all my karmic reactions. Actually, I have nothing to do with it. I'm just forced like that. But actually or people say like that, when God wants me to surrender, then I'll surrender. Actually, it's not up to me, because it's faith. So when God wants me to do it, then I'll do it. But Bhakti Vikas Maharaj says like that. But because you're a fool, God wants you to surrender, but you still won't surrender. So people may make that point, well, okay, it's fate, then let me just not act. Let me just go on in life, then what's the point? But because we have got here with result, because we have got here with some karma, because in order to be here in this life, there was some action that was taken within the last life. That means there was, if there was a last life, that means also there was karma. But within that karma, because we performed some activities in which we deserve this good reactions or bad reactions, enjoying karmic reactions or suffering from karmic reactions, that therefore there must be some level of choice and action within this life also. So often the example is given is whether there's two examples particularly given of a cow sometimes tied up to a mortar, in which it can go around. It has 20 meters of rope in which it can, within that, it's free to move. It can move up and down, left and right. But once you hit the, what do you call it? Perimeter or the radius of the boundary of that rope, then you can't go beyond that point. You just can't. The cow just cannot. It can try as hard as it likes, but it's bound up by that force of that rope. But within that, it's allowed to act. Or another example, more related to our own lives, is getting on a plane. There you've entered a particular body. You've entered the body of the plane. Now your destination, there's a destination that you're headed towards. But within that plane, you can do so many things. You can get up and you can walk around, you can go to the bathroom, you can talk to someone next to you. If they happen to be a great businessman and you happen to strike up a deal, become good friends with them, when you land, there's a better situation waiting for you. Or you can make a big problem by making a big fight in the plane and causing so many issues within the plane, and then there's another position waiting for you when you land, as the police are going to put you in handcuffs and take you to the jail. So although one is bound up by this body, because we're traveling from one destination to another, from birth, death, old age, disease, that there is some room within that one can act, although one is extremely limited. So faith is there, but there is also choice within that faith. There is independence, a level of independence given within that to determine our next position, where we go, to what level we go. So, and that may be limited also within the karmic atmosphere. There may be a limit to how far you can go within this life, just like therefore in Varnashram Dharma, generally, you also hear that generally you can advance to the different positions of maybe being a Vaishya or a Brahmana, and then in that way you're meant to, come up in your karmic situation and then become liberated at some point. So even within this life, there is a level that, due to our particular karma, we may be able to attain only a certain amount. You can only be so good at playing a particular game. You can only be so good, so intelligent in a particular field. So according to our karma. So fate is there and it is very powerful, but it doesn't particularly mean that we have no position to act. It particularly determines, it pushes us in a particular direction, but it's how we respond to those pushings that make the difference. Because those pushings are there, but how do we respond to them? So that shapes our fate. So, because if that independence or that choice wasn't there, then we'll just be like machines walking around. What is the use of our consciousness then? What is the use of being individuals? We're just like no better than cartoons acting in a play, or cartoons acting in some film. So we have choice, but it's limited. So with that limit, certain, like we were saying, there is choice. There is choice within this life to either continue in the karmic reactions or karmic way of life, or there's choice to take up different sort of life. So for example, taking up devotional service. We can see that we understand that because this is Daiva, this is the hand of God. When one is not in God consciousness, one is at the mercy of mature nature, that is just carried out. It's carried in the flow or the waves. We have many songs that are like that. We're just kind of carried in the ocean of material existence. But when one comes to the platform of God consciousness, one when actually starts to see the hand of God, Deva, then his fate may change by the will of God, because it's in the hands of God. So when one takes up Krishna consciousness, he puts his fate in the hands of God. That is the difference between the karmi and the devotee. That the karmi, his fate is in the hands of material. Ultimately, it's God's position, but it's at the mercy of Maya. But when one comes to Krishna consciousness, then his fate is in the hands of Krishna. So what does that mean? As we read in Brahma Samhita, that yasto indra gopa matavendra hasa karma bandhanu rupa phala bhajan matanoti karmani nidhati kintu cha bhakti bhajam govindam adi purusham tamham bhajami. I order the primeval Lord Govinda, who burns up their roots, all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion, and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work in accordance with the chain of their previous performed works, no less in the case of tiny insect that bears the name of Indra Gopam, than in that of Indra, king of Daitas. So, here in the purport, God impartially induces the fallen souls to act in the way that is consequent and the deeds of their previous births, and to enjoy the fruits of their labors. But out of his great mercy to his devotees, he purges out by the fire of ordeal the root of all karma, viz., nescience and evil desires. Karma, though without beginning, is still perishable. The karma of those who work with the hope of enjoying the fruits of their labors become everlasting and endless and is never destroyed. The function of sannyas is also a sort of karma befitting an ashram, and is not pleasant to Krishna when it aims at liberation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Desire for emancipation. They also receive fruition of their karma, and even if it be disinterested, their karma ends in atma mamata, self-pleasure. But those who are pure devotees always serve Krishna by gratifying his senses, forsaking all attempts of karma and jnana, and being free from all desires save that of serving Krishna. Krishna has fully destroyed the karma, its desires and nescience of those devotees. It is a great wonder that Krishna, being impartial, is fully partial to his devotees. Krishna makes that point in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not partial to anyone, but those who are dear to me, I favor them. What is that favor? He changes our fate. Deva, his hand, he directly takes charge of the devotee who surrenders unto him. As you surrender unto me, I shall reward you accordingly. But at the same time, it seems that each and individual devotee is still carrying out his karma. That he's suffering still, this material body still undergoes certain levels of suffering, and the devotee being in the homo state of consciousness, he takes that, as Srila Prabhupada says, tatenu kampam sushikchamana, that is actually the consciousness of the devotee at all times. That I'm suffering due to my past misdeeds, and I shall eagerly just patiently wait to burn those out. But it is a fact that actually even those actions and reactions that we are getting is no longer under the hands of material nature. It is not ordinary karma. It actually, that reactions or that suffering that a devotee undergoes is directly under the hand of God. It is actually not anything to, although that is seeming like that, actually it's not directly karma like that. It is because it is being taken under the divine shelter of Krishna, it is actually divinely inspired. Although the devotee's consciousness is that this is my personal own reactions that I have to suffer, but because he is surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, tatenu kampam susikshimana bhunja evatma kritam vivakam, what is it? Hitvag papubhir vididham namaste. Vididham namaste, that I shall pay you respectful obeisances as I surrender to you, my Lord, patiently waiting. Although his consciousness that I am suffering my karma, actually it's under the divine protection of Daiva, the direct hand of God. And so whether the devotee suffers or he enjoys in this world, he never becomes separate from Krishna. He always becomes closer to Krishna as a result of that suffering. That means it's the direct hand of God. Why Krishna says, that for those who I favor, I take away everything. When Krishna takes away everything, it's like, whoa, you lose everything. That's a lot of suffering. When you lose something, even within devotional service, there's a level like, it's like uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to lose. You always want to, be enjoying. You want to be doing good. You want to perform bhakti in a nice way. You want your life to be good. But it's a fact that within devotional service, almost most of the time, you may see that your life may become, in some sense, you look back and like, man, maybe life was better when I was a karmi. Because sometimes we go through certain things in devotional service. But because it is directly under the order of Krishna, or under the surrender principle in Krishna consciousness, it is the direct hand of Krishna. So, Krishna changes our fate. Krishna changes our fate. We may be particularly, sometimes you see astrologers, sometimes you approach astrologers, and they'll tell you, you're meant to have this much money, you're meant to be very wealthy, you're meant to be married, you'll get married at this particular time, you'll have this, you'll have that. But it's a factual experience, or you'll go through this particular set of sufferings, and you'll suffer to this extent. And it's true, that's their job, to tell you what's right. If you have some experience of astrology, it's quite shocking. It was like, whoa. Again, even the devas, those who are under the, the demigods, under the realm of the Supreme Personality Godhead, under the control of the Supreme Personality Godhead, they observe certain things. The stars are observing our activities, and they hold those, and they give and explain. They give our karma, they give our destiny. They explain our destiny, or what we're doing next, what's going to happen next, to some extent in our lives. Who is saying that in actually great astrologers in even within Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, they could determine at what time, under what circumstances was there what you possessed. So when Sanatana Goswami was with his servant, it was mentioned, I was hearing from a devotee that an astrologer could see how much gold was there in that servant's pocket, or however he was hiding it. And therefore, dacoits were going to come after him. Like, astrologers were that learned in that science that they could tell you what was in your right pocket. And Kalki Prabhu was telling me, because he studied a little bit, that the little boys, when they would study astrology under their teachers, they would play a game like, what color are you holding in your hand? And without looking, they would be able to tell him because of astrology. We don't have that nowadays. And to that extent, that knowledge has been largely lost. Only a few are very expert at it. But it's the job of the astrologer to tell you, okay, what your fate is. But it's factual, and many astrologers factually admit, for the devotees, they can't actually predict their situations very, very accurately, actually. Because they may predict, I've had experience, a particular thing, but it's like completely different. And it's not just one astrologer may predict like that. Many others also may agree to that. But then how your life actually plans out is completely different. And then sometimes you'll see others predict in another particular way, and then that actually carries out. Just like one devotee, Nataba Gauranga Prabhu, is a brahmachari. He's been a brahmachari for a very long time in New York City, doing Harinam every day. And he has a twin brother. And when he looked at astrology with one devotee, he said, "Oh, you're going to get married at this time." But Krishna made the divine arrangement that actually it was his brother that was going to get married at that time, and it was exactly that time. And when his parents saw that, they were shocked. His parents are just some, I don't know if they're like religious or any particular way, but just some Westerners. And then when they saw that was like such like accurate measure of that, they started approaching that devotee for more astrological advice. How can this person determine something that is like unknowable to anyone else? And we've had experience Also, like, you approach astrologer, he'll tell you the qualities of a person. He doesn't know them, like all the qualities of that person that they're talking about, and you're sitting there, you're going, okay, all right, because I have an atheistic mentality. It's like destroys that to a great extent. It's like, whoa, okay, not everything is captured by science. But for the devotees, it's practically difficult to actually see that carried out, because as we read in Brahma Samhita, Krishna destroys it as he likes. He may give it in that particular way also, because he may keep the order of what he has set into action to some extent, but not to the complete extent. He may give in such a way give that karma in such a way that it is purifying to the devotee. So Krishna fully destroys karma. Actually, when one comes to devotional service and surrenders unto Krishna, actually karma is destroyed. Now one is under the hand of Krishna. And one may undergo certain sufferings within this world, similar to that of what he may have gone through in his karma. So that Krishna, he not only destroys that which is the karma that we're suffering, or the resultant karma. There's like, 4 different types, or what is this? That which has been manifest, that which is waiting to be manifest, that which is, there's a seed that is being planted. So all of these Krishna destroys. He actually, as the devotional service, it fries those seeds, root seeds that are there within our hearts. Makes them impotent. Actually, they can't act out anymore, so that one may not become conditioned again. So, simply by clapping of the hands in kirtan, bhakti bhajam, that by performance of bhakti, one actually changes one's fate. As our own spiritual master has said, just clap your hands in kirtan. Clap 3 times in kirtan. What does it do? It changes, because sometimes we said also, all the lines in your hand, they're fate. They determine your fate. But these lines in your hands will change simply by the clapping in kirtan. So when one takes upon devotional service, he actually comes under the direct dependency of the supreme will, the super soul. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada says here that those in complete Krishna consciousness are not ultimately responsible for their actions. Everything is dependent on the supreme will, the super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead. Why is it they not responsible? Because they're no longer entitled to the fruits. They don't act under their own idea of life. They act under what Krishna desires. As Krishna desired Arjuna to fight. So Arjuna is not responsible in one sense for the actions that are going on. He's simply being acted out as an instrument. Just like when a soldier goes to battle and he kills a bunch of people, he is not responsible for that killing. Although he acted that out, who's responsible? Well, whoever directed him to kill those. But if he goes out by himself and decides to kill, then he's responsible. Then he is bound. Then he has to go to prison. But the devotee of the Lord, because he's completely in Krishna consciousness, then he carries all of his responsibilities carried out are in accordance with the order of the Supreme Personality Godhead through his spiritual master. So he's no longer under the, at the mercy of karma. He can escape he escapes that cycle of karma. And what is next for him, he doesn't know. And neither can anyone else know. And the devotee takes pleasure in that actually. He takes pleasure in being at the mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead, because he understands ultimately that Bhuktaram Yagyatapasam, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, he is the Supreme Lord. He can do whatever he likes with me. He can play me as a puppet, as Srila Prabhupada says. Let me be controlled by you, not by the 3 modes of material nature. He lets himself become controlled by Krishna. Anyways, we can't know what's going to happen in our lives, even if you're not, it's like, how can you understand the workings of material nature? But he becomes completely under the realm of Krishna consciousness, and everything he does, everything that happens to him, he takes to be the mercy of Krishna. As we see Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, factually his life is pretty hellish. You see that he's tied up. He's tied up. And it's quite a suffering condition for him. But at no point at all in that circumstances, he's completely surrendered to Vamana. And he's taking great pleasure in that surrender, although externally suffering in his situation. His tears, it's mentioned like that he's lying there, it's like all of the demons, he's the king of the demons, you could say. He's the leader of the demons. His wife is there, all of these things, all of them are there. But it takes great pleasure in being bound up by the Supreme Personality Godhead. And when one is bound up by the Supreme Personality Godhead's love, one can bind the Supreme Personality Godhead. As in the 10th canto you'll read that the gopis, they would make Krishna dance like a puppet. And Krishna would dance according to their direction. It's very nicely mentioned in this that Krishna, the gopis will instruct him, now you dance like this, now you dance like that. And Krishna would say, okay. And the devotees would experience great pleasure. So when one comes under the yoga maya of the Lord, one becomes captured by that, and then one can capture the Lord. We see that all of the Vrindavan Vasis, they factually don't believe in Krishna's pastimes. He performs all of these amazing, pastimes of killing all of these demons, but the Vrindavan Vasis, that's not possible. How is it possible? They don't believe in Krishna, but they love Krishna. Even though it's mentioned they don't believe what Krishna did, they want to hear about it. They get more love for Krishna they become attracted to Krishna. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, we come under the Daivi Shakti, the divine potency of Krishna. It's all divine, even the Maya, but particularly under the realm of Maya, of Yoga Maya. And so the devotee, under all circumstances, he sees the hand of God, as Prahlad Maharaj did. Prahlad Maharaj, factually, he saw the hand of God in all circumstances. Never was there a separate existence other than the hand of God. So we're directed, our life is directed in a particular way within devotional service by Krishna. So all those circumstances, sometimes in life, it's bewildering. What is going to happen next? What am I going to be doing? Sometimes you'll see a 1 year changes everything in your life. 1 month changes everything in your life. 1 day changes everything in your life. But if one is convinced and situated that let all of these things come, as Kunti prays, let all of these difficulties come in my life, and I welcome them because I can see them as the hand of God. I can see Daiva. I can remember Daiva at all times in my lives. So it's a great benediction whether one is victorious or losing in certain circumstances in our lives, that one always remains fixed in Krishna consciousness, then everything is auspicious. Actually, there's a verse that even the work that is inauspiciously done, that's seemingly inauspicious, it is actually auspicious, that one who is situated within devotional service. That is particularly mentioned in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the ultimate dharma of the soul, the Swadharma. And when one performs this, then he becomes all free. And we can see like that, the Daiva, the hand of God is very wonderful. It is very, very attractive to hear from my spiritual master, mentioning it again and again, even in our conversations, the hand of God. So we can see the hand of God in everything, even in how material nature is being carried out. So, yes, that's pretty much everything that I have to say. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Anything? Yes, Navani Hoda Prabhu. And then,
yeah. Yeah, you were speaking of this, the Brahma Samhita, the fire of ordeal, and I guess the logical conclusion is that when Krishna favors a devotee, that devotee will feel that fire of ordeal more, because you're saying that he displays his partiality by taking away certain things for the devotee. So my question is this fire ordeal, do devotees have to experience this more acutely than the karmis? Because you see, the karmis are suffering like anything, but they don't realize it. But the devotee, it seems like I don't know. I want to ask you: do a devotee have to feel that fire ordeal more than the karmis?
Do the devotees have to feel the fire of ordeal
More than the karmis.
more than the karmis? They may do, because the endeavor to please Krishna is greater. That desire to please Krishna is more, because we have to act out of our nature almost in order to please Krishna. It's difficult. For the karmis, you're carried away and you just kind of like go along with whatever. You don't have to change. But in devotional service, we're making a very conscious endeavor to change our own natures. What is that? Sattva. He was defining that. Mukunda Datta Prabhu, he was giving that lectures on modes of mature nature, and that is our particular disposition. I think that was the word that he was using. But we can change our disposition. And so a devotee particularly tries to change his disposition in order to please Krishna. Just like Srila Prabhupada, in one sense, he had to go through a lot more than what a standard karmi would go through. 2 heart attacks and living in New York by yourself in the cold and all of these things. So a devotee may willingly face that fire of ordeal in order for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. So I was saying that in sometimes cases it seems like we're suffering more in devotional service sometimes. Why? But because we're trying to make a conscious change in our lives. Because as a karmi, there was no struggle with your mind, as Bhaktivikas Maharaj often relates, because you don't care. You're not trying to control your mind, you're just letting it control, you're just letting it go. So that fire of ordeal may come like that, because we have a particular nature and have attained this body because of past activities, and we're forced, it's almost like our nature forces us to act in particular ways. So we're trying to change that. So it is a lot more difficult. It can be much, much more difficult than what an ordinary karmi is. Like to control certain of the regulative principles is very difficult. And in certain circumstances, it's like, whoa, the mind imposes upon us a great deal of suffering, but we tolerate that for the purpose of pleasing the spiritual master in Krishna. So in some sense, yeah. But in the ultimate sense, we're doing that because we understand, well, this is what it takes to get out of the cycle of birth and death. Karmis don't have that conception.
Yeah, and you can also, I guess on the other end, you can argue that a devotee is not actually feeling, like Haridas Thakur, it might seem like he was going through some severe ordeal, but he wasn't actually feeling any of the pain, and actually, like Kunti Maharani is saying, that they actually feel blissful during these periods of tribulation. So, yeah, exactly. So it might seem like they're going through so much intense suffering, but internally, actually, they're feeling great pleasure in it because they're getting more and more reminded of Krishna. Mm-hmm. So it's like, because on the spiritual platform, pleasure and pain are practically the same. It's no duality.
Yeah.
So they might actually want that because it's blissful. It's hard to conceptualize with the material mind.
Well, the pure devotees particularly, they want what pleases Krishna.
Yeah.
They not particularly want suffering, but they want whatever pleases Krishna.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's like, okay, whatever you want, my Lord, I'll do. So, yeah, and devotees, you may struggle. Is that Srila Prabhupada, like, just because you're a pure devotee doesn't mean you don't struggle. You struggle for Krishna, but you don't struggle like we do, in the sense that we struggle to even think about Krishna. Whereas they're constantly thinking about Krishna as a result of their so-called struggle that is seen externally. But for us, it's a little more struggle to even just think about Krishna. It's hard. You try to think about Krishna 24 hours a day, see what happens to you. It's quite hard. So yeah, we maybe face more difficulties within devotional service. It's the path, is the right razor's edge. Spiritual life is that of a razor's edge. And it's just like sometimes your nature carries you and you say something wrong or you do something wrong and you got to face that. And so it takes a great level of control. Is it? Yes. Yeah.
This is a conversation between Prabhupada and Umapati Prabhu. So Prabhupada is saying that so fashion is not austerity, that is sense gratification. It appears like austerity, but it is sense gratification. Real austerity is to not make any sense gratification simply to serve Krishna. That is real austerity. Umapati. So if Krishna required us to sleep on the beach, then Prabhupada, huh? Umapati. That would not be, if Krishna required us to sleep on the beach, that would not be sense gratification. Prabhupada, no. And why will Krishna require like that? Do you mean to say Krishna is a madman? Umapati, no. Yashomati Nandan, yes, I was thinking like that too. Why would Krishna require any of his devotees to sleep on the beach? Prabhupada, Krishna wants to see his devotees are comfortably situated. Why will he ask you to unnecessarily go and lie down on the beach? So, I was also discussing this in a conversation with some other devotees just the other day, that Prabhupada makes this point even in Bhagavad Gita, that material well-being follows spiritual well-being. What does that well-being mean? It means that devotees, or anybody for that fact, if they take shelter of Krishna's energies, they will have sufficient to eat, sleep, and execute their bodily needs. Will automatically be taken care of. This happens in the animal society. The animals are, we were just in Utah, and these peacocks, they're flying around, they have everything provided for them. Those llamas also have everything. And if animals who are not even God conscious, they're not consciously aware that Krishna is providing all these things to them. So Krishna is very kind, and that is the basic standard of life that Krishna is showing. This is just basic. People come and pray to me for all these things, or people go to God, oh please, I want this, I want that. Or if they may even go and ask, all I want is a comfortable place to live. All I want is comfortable. Well, that's all there. It's like the baseline of life. But the animals have it and the humans don't have it, because the animals are acting according to the laws given to them by material nature, which is Krishna's nature. The animals don't have a choice but to live like that. But the fact that they are living like that means they live comfortably. Devotees also therefore can live comfortably if they act dutifully, at least live sinless dharmic lives. And then on that platform, try to avoid sense gratification and try to serve Krishna. Everything will be taken care of. Everything will be taken care of. It's not that, devotees are going to suffer more than the karmis. That's not true. It is not as a baseline true. It is not a baseline true for even the animals. How can it be true for the devotees? The point is, now for preaching one may take up difficulty, and that's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
It's completely different. But if one is looking in terms of executing life in general, it cannot be. It should not be. Everybody who is born, it's Krishna's duty to supply them food. How he's got multifarious, parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate, swabhaviki jnana bhalakriya. He has all these different energies. He has no problem supplying anything to anybody. Mm-hmm. So, that is where, if we at least can live as humans, as Aryans, as civilized people, that Krishna expects us to live, then those things will be taken care of. Then, on that platform, one can practice Krishna consciousness without the anxieties that are experienced by the karmis. The karmis, because they are not. And you can see this to the extent that people are genuinely trying to follow God, sincerely trying, to that extent, they are liberated from the problems that atheistic modern people face. Atheistic modern people may be rich, they have no peace, they have no happiness, they have no family life, they have nothing. They don't even know what gender they belong to. So this this craziness. And if devotees are crazy, then something is really wrong. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there's two aspects to that question. I can say that. Generally, we'll see our lifestyle. Like, one thing, because I don't think about that.
I mean, Prabhupada goes on and on about how devotees are living very comfortably, devotees are living very opulently. Even I was just telling even Navani Oda, the Kurmagram, the way they've built it, is a Richmond people. I mean, this old structure, he has no electricity, but to build that, you need to have a lot of money to build it. Because wood is expensive in India, and they build it nicely. We're looking very nice, like structures from the past.
One reason I didn't think about that is because a lot of us joined when we were young, so we didn't really have the experience of like the particular anxieties that like the karmis go through, and you see it in these university students, like, what job am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna? I've been going through like 3 years, 4 years of university. Now AI has come in and taken over everything. Now what am I? You see all of these Indian students now come with these IT things, and they're just completely in anxiety all the time. So there's that. Our life is complete. Like we look at I look at my life in the last 6 years. Any devotees that have been living full-time devotion service, like there's never a situation in which there's no prasadam. There's never a situation where we can't stay somewhere. There's never like a scarcity of anything. I've never experienced that within devotional service. Scarcity of you go somewhere and there's always prasadam. Sometimes you don't even plan for it, and there's like all of a sudden you have too much. And you're like, we don't know what to do with it most of the time. Or sometimes in New York we had this experience, life was really austere in some sense because we were just eating khichdi every day for lunch. And sometimes you have material desires, so you pray, I hope there's like pizza. And then like a few days later, pizza shows up, you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have prayed for that one. I probably should have prayed for love of God. It was something like that. But yeah, everything is provided. That anxiety is not there. But a different.
Prabhupada even says it here in a lecture in July 1977, I think. Yeah. Prabhupada says, anyone who will give some service to the Krishna conscious movement, he will make progress. Therefore, I am trying to engage everyone in this movement some way or other. A little help, swalpamapi. It is such a nice thing. With that spirit, you come, you do, and live comfortably. There is no question of unnecessarily taking life of poverty-stricken. There is no necessity. But there is no necessity of luxurious life. And luxurious will already come for devotees. That I have already given example. Who can live more luxurious than ourselves? Where is that? It is practical. All over the world, we are living like princes. Princes cannot even live like that. All are devotees. And what to speak of myself? 6 crores of rupees, one house. Who can possess? How many men are in the world who have got many houses, each 6 crore rupees? So, this is Prabhupada explaining to his son, Vrindavan Dey.
Wow. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Very good. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So in Arjuna's case, it is very clear to fight or not fight. Krishna said it himself. What about us? How do I know the choice I picked is the right one or Krishna likes?
You have to be under a spiritual master. Krishna is guiding Arjuna. He's accepted him as a spiritual master, as he says in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Now I'm bewildered, and I accept you, everything that you say, oh my dear Lord. I accept you as my teacher, and I'm as a disciple, and I'm ready to listen. So one may not be able to understand what is the right thing to do and wrong to do. So then one has to take guidance under a teacher. So that is the process. And therefore Krishna says that also in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Pranipatena, that you go learn under a teacher. You don't try to directly learn from Bhagavad Gita like that. Of course we have Bhagavad Gita and we study Bhagavad Gita, but even that study and the practice is done under guidance. So one has to take that guidance. Otherwise we're likely to be faulty, actually. So it requires personal guidance. Yeah, that's how you know if Krishna wants that or not. Yeah. Okay. Is there any other questions from the Matajis? Yes. You have a question? You can ask and then we can go next. Oh. Okay. Anyways, okay.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you. The black one?
Top, yeah.
The top. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that one. Okay. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So I have a question regarding the demons that Krishna vanquished or demolished or whatever he does to get rid of them. So I was wondering, so how is it that demons even happen? Is it because the world is so materialistic and it invites or develops like demons? And then how is it that Krishna knows to? It's not so much just that. It's just how would you know that that somebody is a particularly demonic thing? Because it looks like on the paintings, like it looks like big animals, but I'm assuming it was more than that 10,000 years ago.
So,
Oh, 5,000 years ago for Krishna time. Yeah, over 5,000 years ago.
so what is the question exactly?
So over 5,000 years ago, when Krishna was there, he vanquished demons like we see in the paintings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the big snake and stuff, or but things like that. Was the demons actually like formed like that, or there would be times that they would be like human form, and then, but why would the demon, like an animal be demon and a human be demon, like why would that happen on
Sure.
top of it?
They take different. There may be some who are taking different forms to try to, just like there's some demons who particularly they can change their shapes and they can change their appearance in order to enter into Vrindavan, enter into that place so people don't know that they're demons, and then infiltrate and try to kill Krishna. So it's pastime.
Okay.
So yeah, but some of them that is their form, and Krishna kills them and liberates them. Yeah.
Okay, so just one more small question is just so the demons infiltrate to for other people, but also to kill Krishna.
They try to kill Krishna. Yeah.
Is it more like also the devotees as well?
They try to. How do you? Are you asking? No. Is that what you're asking?
I couldn't hear.
You said, why did they try to kill the devotees as well?
Yeah, do they try to kill the devotees?
Look, they all walk into that snake's mouth.
Yeah. So my question, another thing is how would you know if it's a demon? It's just you feel the energy or you feel the sense.
They disturb Krishna's pastimes.
Pastimes?
Krishna is playing and they want to come.
She's asking practically in our lives, how do we recognize demons?
In our lives, you're saying? No, she's asking about the pastimes of Krishna.
But even our lives too. That's what I'm figuring out too, because things in time have evolved over these 5,000 years.
Sure. So yeah, then you have to see what is favorable for Krishna consciousness, what is not favorable for Krishna consciousness. That which is not favorable for Krishna consciousness, it naturally shapes into a demoniac mentality, which tries to avoid surrender to Krishna. So that which takes us further away from Krishna is considered sinful or demoniac.
Okay.
So that's how one is determined what is demoniac and what is divine.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mataji, you have a question?
I just had a piece of a purport that reminded me of what was being said that I just wanted to read. It's from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:16-37. He says, when something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. For example, sometimes we see that a powerful preacher is killed, or sometimes he is put into difficulty, just as Haridas Thakur was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Haridas was punished at the hands of the Qazi by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified, and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who were direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom, their wife was insulted, and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord even in reverse conditions is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planets.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then I had a question about astrology, because Krishna can ultimately change the astrology in favor towards the person coming closer to Krishna. So I find myself going back and forth and like I find myself in a place in life right now where it's like I can hear my astrology from an astrologer, but it's like it may happen, it may not happen. And I'm just wondering, where is the balance of utilizing that science to favor one's Krishna consciousness and then not being like adverse to it completely?
Yeah, so there's a principle, as we're describing. So in the Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami describes these 6 Sharanagati, the 6 ways to surrender to Krishna. And the 2 is, 1, accept that which is favorable and reject that which is unfavorable. If your astrology tells you that you shouldn't chant anymore because by chanting, you're inviting all your material things to be lost, then you're obviously going to reject that. But if that situation is there and devotees have to be careful how they look at all of that. Obviously there's circumstances which you take that to be significant. But if it is favorable towards Krishna consciousness, then we accept it. So for example, somebody may look at astrology and then, there's something there, you need to read more. You need to make sure that you're reading more in your life. Not that I think that exactly it may happen like that, but it's good advice. You need to read more. You need to read more Srimad Bhagavatam, you need to read more Srila Prabhupada's books, you need to change your consciousness, But if it's contradictory, you need to go away from devotee association, you need to go start doing this job, and you need to start doing this, then no, I'll rather suffer whatever the reaction is coming. That's what Prabhupada is talking about in that purport. That we're willing to go under the reversals that may come about, like Bali Maharaj's case in point. His spiritual master, Sukracharya, tells him, don't do it. Don't surrender to Vishnu, that he will take away everything from you. I know this, I'm telling you the future. What's going to happen? You're going to give 1 step, he's going to take over the whole universe. 2nd step, he's going to take up all the regions. And where will you give his 3rd step? Where will he allow his 3rd step to go? But Bali Maharaj doesn't care. Anyways, I know this is Vishnu, but let me do it because this is what I want. This is what it is. So it's important not to get too into astrology, because I've seen that can get tripped up. Devotees can get tripped up with all of that. But in circumstances, people like with marriage and things like that, when devotees get married, and those are important things. And then certain other things because it is Krishna science, we use it. But it's important to be sober in all of those, when we're looking at all of those things, not to be bewildered by it or think it to be everything, because Daiva is the fate of what Krishna decides ultimately. I have some experience in that has been particularly said in a particular, it's like, you're about to really suffer. It's like, but then actually that suffering is not there, or it's taken away to a great extent. And you can see directly the hand of God. Or sometimes you're not meant to suffer and you suffer. And so we should see like that we should just do what is favorable for Krishna consciousness, leaving aside everything else, and under the direction of the Guru. The Guru determines our fate because he engages in Krishna consciousness. So like that, not to get it's a material science, but we're trying to perform that, serve in that which is transcendental to all of these things. And so we're willing to accept all of those difficulties if it means to perform the process of Sharanagati. So it should be taken like that. Okay, I better end. It's 3:40. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Do you do kirtan or? You want to sing?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Huh? Yeah, yeah. Thank you everybody for coming. You can all go downstairs now and honor Prashadam. There's a fired up Kirtan. It's hard to do any tune that has some low notes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Fire, you know?
It's hard.